Hi everyone, good evening. So today we are here with our toppers for the last year, and these are all students, Vihan, Ira, and Shravan, sorry, who've been with IMS and are currently in some of the other NLUs. So this agenda for today's session, I would like to inform everyone, is to firstly gain some insight from these toppers and who are currently into NLUs as to what is to be done in the coming few days that are pending for the CLAT exam, and also to understand what is it to be kept in mind while actually appearing for the CLAT exam. Because obviously, like we discussed, some of you are nervous, some of you are thrilled, some of you are probably just like wanting to get done with the exams. I'm sure you are all in that zone right now, especially after the A-Lit exam for all those who appeared. So we're just going to take these tips from them. So before we begin, Vihan, I would like you to quickly introduce yourself, and then we can go one by one. Shravan and Ira, you can also do that so that they know who you are and how come we are having this conversation.
Right. Hello, I'm Vihan. I was a student at IMS Thane last year. I am currently a first year student at NLU.
Shravan?
Hi, my name is Shravan Anande. Currently, I am studying at Nalsar University of Law first year.
Okay. And then Ira.
Hi, I'm Ira Kamath. I'm from Pune and I'm currently studying at Nalsar, Hyderabad.
Okay. All right. So now that we have some introductions on these esteemed panelists who've just given their CLAT exam, so I'm going to start with Ira and understand. Ira, how was your journey preparing for CLAT? Like, let's just go to the basics.
It was tedious. Like, I remember this time during my CLAT, like 2022, it was so stressful. There's no way to express it in like a few sentences, but yeah, 2 years I had to give for this preparation. It was a lot, but it was worth it at the end.
Was it really worth it? Like, do you really think Nalsar was the place that you wanted to be, and now it's where you are?
Yes, I wouldn't complain about it.
That's so great. Okay, Shravan, what about you? How was your journey?
My preparation of CLAT was like full of ups and downs, but there were like the mock scores affected my mood and everything. The stress was high at the end, but at the end of the day, when I look back, it was all like worth it. At the end, I felt like the hard work and everything is worth doing.
You also prepared for 2 years?
Yes, I prepared for 2 years.
Oh, all right. And what about you, Vihan?
My journey was comparatively pretty shorter. I had taken the 2-year course. I knew I wanted to do law, but I spent all of my 11th doing time pass in COVID. So I actually started studying, say, March end after my boards ended. And till then, I was in 55, 60s mock scores. So the last 3 months were pretty rigorous. Yeah, I had to study for 8 hours a day, and it was hard.
Okay, all right. And so I mean, we've understood your preparation, but during this time, we can start with Vihan that what were the subjects that you focused on, especially during your mocks, that or maybe like your weak areas if there were any. So could you throw some light on that?
Right. So when I started giving my mock seriously, like 3 months before CLAT, I was scoring almost 2 to 3 in GK out of 35. So that was by far my weakest area. So that is where I focused on. Every single day I tried covering the last 15 days of GK and a few static GK questions. So I did GK for 3 hours every day and 2 hours new and 1 hour revision of whatever I had done previously. And that helped me. So I got like 20 plus in GK and CLAT. So I think I got around a good score.
Okay. And Shravan, what was your weak area or your strength? Maybe we can talk about that also.
For me, the toughest part was, like Vihan also said, GK, because if we see CLAT GK, it is time consuming. we put in a lot of input and the output we get is sometimes not what we expect. So we have to like study everything and anything which is in news, but at the end, like what comes in exam, it is totally unpredictable. So the I think GK was the tough subject. So we have to put in a lot of efforts for it to prepare.
Okay, okay. Ira, do you have the same opinion as Ravi?
Yeah, but just to add to that, I think by now, since everyone knows what their strengths and weaknesses is, I would say like you focus more on your strengths because you can build on that and less on improving whatever you're weak at, because now is not the time for that. And GK, I didn't struggle with much because I did it throughout like the 2 years. So I kind of had everything in mind. I just had to revise. So I would say just do more mocks
Right.
and build on your strengths.
So they're done with their mock. So what do you think right now? Like it's literally what 5 days to the CLAT exam. So what is it that they should really start focusing on? And I also want you to help them or guide them in the direction that they are obviously very nervous at this stage. So what is it that they can do to probably calm themselves down?
Honestly, it's pretty subjective. If you think mocks will actually boost your confidence, seeing those numbers, then go for that. If not, if you think that it's now is not the time, I don't want that kind of pressure, I would say do like small subject-wise tests or like the small ones just to know where you stand, know where you can still improve places, but like not ponder too much on why I can't get this particular question, why not this subject. Just build and revise GK. Like GK is always so unexpected and it's always oh, I know this or I don't know this. Like there's no in between, there's no solving for that. So I think just revising GK will be very important.
Okay. And what about you, Shravan?
Now, when 5 days are remaining, I think revision is the most important. Like what you have done till now, try to repeat it. Like try to revise it. Don't experiment much, like because like there will be no of use experimentation now. Just see the mocks you have solved previously. Just revise them. Try to see the reasoning behind the answer you have like solved the mocks and all that, and try to revise GK as much as possible.
Okay. And Vihan, do you also think everybody should start only focusing on GK now?
I agree with both of them that the aspirant should focus on GK, but I would like to add on that last week, everyone gets this anxiety that I haven't done this, I haven't done that, and then they start taking 10 different sources and then they start reading from 10 different sources. They start reading new topics. The thing is, what you've studied in ek saal ho gaya hai tumhara. Abhi, in the last 5 days, you aren't going to go from 80 to 150 or something. So what I would suggest is what you've done till now, focus on that, because anyway the question papers are made. Abhi, whatever is happening, that's not going to come in the question papers. So whatever you've done till date, focus on that, revise that. Don't try experimenting, as Shravan said. Don't do anything new at this point.
Okay, so I see a lot of questions on our Q&A section, in our Q&A section also, which is that what is it during the exam that they should do, especially like, how should the time be divided or what sections to attempt first. So I think let's start talking about firstly each section wise attempt. As to know which section would be preferable. Of course, it may differ because some people have some weak areas, some others have stronger areas. But if you had to suggest, keeping in mind that you have already appeared, and then how much time to dedicate to each of these sections? Maybe we can start with Shravan.
So till now, like each student have got an idea like what time they will put in the section. Like for logical reasoning, 25 to 30 minutes. In DI, 10 to 15 minutes. So keep that on the D day. Don't try anything new. If logical reasoning section comes time consuming, don't put too much time in that. Give the time which you have given in mock only. Like don't try to exceed the time limit which you have done in mocks. So no need to try anything new. Just follow the procedure in which you have given the mocks and try to be in the time limit. Try to complete the paper in 120 minutes itself.
Do you suggest attempting all questions or how to tackle the negative marking if you could also address that, Shravan?
So the attempts, I think it depends on the difficulty level too, but the attempts normally should be 130 to 140 because it also depends on difficulty, but the normal attempt should be 130 to 140, going with the recent cutoff trends and everything.
Okay, and what sections did you like? What was your flow, or what was the first section and the last section that you applied for?
So I tried many different things in mocks, and at last I decided upon like I will start with legal reasoning, then after that DI, then after that English and logical, and last I will do GK.
So my question is that did you think of any specific reason to do that? Maybe you looked at the paper and then you realized this, or was it something that you've given so many mocks and now you know that this is something that suits well?
Yeah, I tried many things. After that I decided upon like legal reasoning is very much time consuming, like 40 questions come there, so I can start with it and I would not be exhausted at the end of the paper. So I just think
Right.
that and started with legal reasoning always.
Okay, makes sense. And what about you, Ira?
So yeah, even I started with the experimenting and all, but by this time, like I had a set number of attempts that I wanted to do for each section. And like even my order was decided, like I didn't just decide to wing it. Like you should never go in with that kind of attitude when you're actually given the paper. So I started with English, legal reasoning, then I think GK, maths, and I would do logic at the end because logic was by far my weakest link. And for GK, I knew I couldn't start with it because just in case I couldn't get a lot of questions, that would make me like, it would be a setback at the beginning of the paper itself. So that, and yes, the attempts 130 to 140 makes sense. But again, like depends on the difficulty level and also depends on each subject. Like if you are stronger in one section, I would say give more attempts to that. And if you're weaker, try not doing so much of those attempts because negative marking, like you have to keep that in mind at all times during your exam.
Right. And did you think of any time limit for each section?
Yes, I had the time limit for each section. I knew like for all sections, I gave like a dedicated time limit and I didn't exceed it, or like just in case it got like, I think my English got like done pretty early. So I gave more time to like legal. So it's more about the difficulty too. Because if you're giving like 30 minutes to English, but the English part comes off to be easy and some other section is way more difficult and requires more time, you have to kind of adjust it during the paper. Like that's not something that you can go like predetermined, but this sort of vague time limit you should have in mind.
Okay. Okay. And what about you, Vihan?
Like both of them, I started with legal. I went with GK next. My basic uh, ideology was to keep the reading sections apart. I didn't want to keep the three reading sections one after the other. So I went with legal, GK, logical, then maths, and then English. That is because English is generally easy. English, you don't have to read the paragraph. You can just read the questions and get to know what's coming. So even if by chance, which is what happened to me in CLAT, so even if by chance you exceed your time limit in the other subjects, you can like you can catch up in English. That's what I had to do. I finished English in 20 minutes.
That is interesting. And there are a lot of questions on the lines of how to tackle negative marking. Because should you go ahead, attempt, take that chance, or should you just leave that? Like especially if you're confused between say two options, like out of the four options that are there. So
Uh,
did you attempt your dicey questions or did you just let them be?
that depends. If it's dicey and it's 50-50, I wouldn't attempt it. I personally
Okay,
wouldn't, but then it's also on each aspirant. They can try. If your attempts are already very low and you need the marks, you have to take samples in the paper. My
right,
attempts
right.
were pretty decent. I had 141 attempts. So I did not need to attempt the dicey questions.
Okay. All right. Now I'll move to another discussion point, which is that obviously there's a lot of nervousness at this point. So, especially during the exam, once you see the paper, once you open the paper, and the moment of truth is there, you obviously tend to get some jitters. You feel that, oh, I know this. So sometimes even people tend to get overconfident. So, do you have any tips to sort of handle this or how to go about this? We can start with Ira.
I have no idea about the overconfident ones. I was super unconfident going into the paper. So, but yeah, it's always going to happen. Like, I remember during my time, so I was like, we were told that just in case you mark two options, it won't be counted. So, I marked an option wrong on my OMR. Oh, yes, this also happens. Like, you need to warn students about marking it correct on the OMR and not just doing it on the question paper and forgetting to mark the OMR. But so yeah, I marked two options so that I would get a zero instead of a negative, but I ended up getting a negative. So stuff like this is going to happen. There are going to be some mistakes. It's like unavoidable, but just try to minimize it. Like even the whole jitters and the nervousness that you get, I think as soon as the paper starts, you stop looking around and caring about all this. Like you start reading, you start forgetting about like the externalities, like what is going on around you. Just focus on the paper and nothing else. I think that's the only way to overcome any nervousness.
Okay, and Vihan?
If you see one section and you know a few questions, like if you see GK and you know a lot of questions in GK, that affects your confidence throughout the paper, and then that will affect the rest of your paper, not just the GK section. But and this can happen in any section. You may feel like you don't know the particular answers in a particular section. Suppose DIME, you don't know any of the three passages. What I would suggest is, even if that happens, which is a very real possibility, you move on and you attempt the other sections first, because if you let one section or for example two sections affect the rest of your paper, that will only bring your total tally down. What I would suggest
Right,
is,
right.
do your strong things first, score where you can, and then move on to the hard part.
Okay, and Shravan, what do you have to say?
So there is one thing which my mentor also said, like believe in your preparation. Like if during exam you find a question very difficult and you are not able to solve it, just keep in mind that it will be difficult for everyone. So just keep in mind that it will be difficult for everyone, and just try to move on. Like don't stick on just one question and try to think about it. Just go to next question and next question, try to solve. Yeah.
Okay. There are a lot of questions. I think Ira brought this up about the OMR thing. So let's like go there also. And other than okay, attempting the paper and everything, what other things do you think we should keep in mind while attempting the paper? It could be something as basic as not marking in the OMR prior and maybe doing it later, or like Ira mentioned, doing some wrong thing. So if you could just give tips about how to tackle that actual attempt of the questions rather than just like reading of the paper. So maybe Shravan, you can only start with that.
So of OMR, I used to do like I used to solve one passage, and after that I used to mark the 5 questions in the OMR. So that is what I followed, and I think it is like it has the least risk, because if you try to like solve one whole section and after that you will go to fill OMR, I think it is very much subjective. But after solving one passage, when you fill the OMR, it is fine. Like it has the least risk. I think so. I followed it throughout.
Okay, okay. What about you, Ida?
Yeah, I did the same thing, like 5 questions, you mark it in the OMR. And apart from that, few things like don't solve the maths thing on your OMR sheet, use a rough sheet. And like, I think even while you're giving your mocks, just in case you are during this last week, prepare once or twice on the OMR just so you can like create the actual stimulate, like the environment that's going to happen during the exam. Like I did that during my last few weeks. Like I would ask my parents to invigilate, ask me, like they would come during the last 10 minutes and remind me that, oh, 10 minutes are left, and take my OMR, even if I'm still marking. Just like I remember that happened to me, and so that there's no surprise during the exam. You're prepared for all of this.
All right, and Vihan, what do you have to add to this?
Firstly, there's this thing that happens at CLAT centers, which is pretty unfair to some. some centers give 10 minutes extra for filling in all your details, and some centers don't give you any extra time. So that takes away 5 or something minutes of yours. So what I would suggest is ask your invigilator as soon as you get into the hall that are they going to provide the this thing 10 minutes prior to the start. And if they say no, try to convince them. Obviously the end decision is theirs, but they might get convinced. You're all law aspirants. You might be able to convince them otherwise, and you will save a lot of time. And moreover, there is this guy who comes to sign your paper during the paper. It's supposed to take less than 30 seconds, but sometimes they just take your paper, they start reading it. I don't know what they do. But if it takes more than 30 seconds, just tell them politely that there is limited time. We need to write our paper. And adding on to what Ira said, I did the same thing. I just did it. I actually sat in my hall with my brother watching TV and my parents talking amongst themselves. So I had that distracted environment with me. So like I knew how to handle even such an environment. So I wasn't really bothered by it in the actual exam. So that's what I did.
Very interesting. I think we've all spoken very interesting personal experiences. Anything funny or anything surprising that happened during the exam that you want to share with us? Vihan, you can only start.
Okay, this is very surprising to me. I wouldn't call it funny. This PG guy, he was giving the CLAT PG exam, was caught with his phone 30 minutes into the exam, and they took his phone, they gave him another OMR sheet, and they let him give the exam. I don't know how that happened, but this was very surprising
Oh,
to me
yeah,
because
yeah.
he must know all the answers by then. So what point is it letting him give the exam?
Okay, and Shravan, did you face any such funny, surprising, unexpected incident?
Not funny, but surprising. Like we were not allowed to like take our water bottles in the center. So like it was a little bit
Yeah, yeah, that's
surprising, but
an issue.
somehow
Yeah,
like we managed.
but I think they provide water, if I'm not wrong.
No, they didn't provide it in our center.
Oh, all right. Ida, what about you?
I mentioned that before the OMR one, the person just did all the rough work on the OMR. And I remember the invigilator started fighting with the guy. You're not supposed to do this, like, why? And the guy they got into a full on fight in the middle of the classroom. That was all surprising. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think our key takeaway from this conversation, especially this bit, is that guys, there are going to be a lot of distractions, a lot of unexpected things which you probably didn't see, and you still have to be at it and attempt the paper and focus on the goal because you are just there to attempt your paper. You have your like this is something that happened with me. Like my friend was there during my CLAT exam. So I was like really excited and I kept looking at her and all of that. And I realized that, oh shit, this is not to be done. I can meet my friend outside and, we're still going to be together to discuss the paper. So, these are just like tidbits, but these become really important, like the water thing, or like like please carry extra pens, pencils, so that in case one is not working, just like you can use another. So all of these are very, very important. Okay, now I will quickly move to the other questions that have come up, which is a lot about GK and handling GK. So a lot of students have yet not prepared for GK completely or have missed out on certain months. So how do you suggest they go about it in the coming months? Shravan, maybe you can answer that. Sorry, coming days.
So as only 5 days are remaining, I think the main focus should be on revision. Like do what have you done till now, all the GK topics which you have prepared it, just revise it, revisit it, just read it. Like you will not forget it in the moment. When you will see the question, you have that confidence, you will not get confused between two options. So have that confidence, revise in such a way that you have the confidence to like tick it on OMR. So the main thing will be revision, I think, in the next 5 days. Revisit the mocks, revisit the old questions which you have made it wrong, and just try to find the answer.
Do you suggest studying anything new or working on any new section of the paper?
No, as I said, like don't try anything new. Just no. Oh, what was your question?
No, no, the same thing, same thing. It will be
Yeah.
on those lines because somebody had asked that should I start studying my October and November GK or should I let it be? So it is on those lines.
Last 8 to 9 months will be sufficient, I think, for GK. Like from Jan 2022.
Okay, okay. And Vihan, what do you have to say?
I totally agree with Shravan on this one. Don't do anything new. Because as I said before, whatever you've done in 1 year, you're not going to do anything extraordinary in the next 5 days. You must have made notes up that just I would suggest revise so thoroughly that when you go to the exam and see the question, you should remember where it was on which page of your notes. You should revise your notes thoroughly. You should revise whatever you've done already thoroughly. But if you start something new at this point of time, I think you'll just mess up your own confidence because you won't be able to recollect that much information within the next 5 days.
Okay. What about you, Ira? Do you have the same view?
No, I'm gonna have a little controversial view over this, but for me, I did a lot of GK during the 2 years. So I knew that for me, it was a little pointless to do everything again because I knew I would remember it anyway when it comes to like MCQs. So regarding the pick up something new, I would say something not drastically new because according to the pattern, if you have one passage and 5 questions over that, it's important for you to do every topic in depth. So like even if you do pick up something new, make sure it's not a lot, something which you can retain and do it more in depth. And the IMS snippets and all, I think like that's enough for revising.
Right. Okay. So I think I have two more questions and then I'll see you guys. One question is a lot of students are not very confident with maths. This is something I have observed, especially students appearing for CLAT or wanting to do law are not very confident with maths. So how suggest we tackle this or how do you suggest we move forward with the DI section of this? So Vihan, do you want to take this up?
I wouldn't have much views on this because maths is always my strongest subject. Uh, but I would suggest if you're extremely weak in DI or if you think that is your weakest subject, in the next 5 days, you can easily do the basicest 5 to 6 topics, that is percentage, profit and loss, fractions, decimals, all of that. The topics must be there in the IMS's books. You must do the basicest 5 to 6 topics from that list. And I'm pretty sure out of those 5 to 6 topics, there'll be at least 1 to 2 passages. So if you're at 0 right now, you'll go to at least 5 or 10, and 5 to 10 marks make all the difference in class. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay. Ira, was math also your strong suit or you like
Yes.
math?
No,
Yes?
I took maths and it was my strongest suit. It was one of my strengths in class, so I didn't complain about it much. But for the people who are thinking of leaving it, please don't. Bad idea. 15 marks in your pocket. Please don't leave it completely.
Okay, okay. And Shravan?
Okay, so maths was not my strongest subject. It
Oh,
was like
welcome to the club.
yeah. So I would say, like, first of all, don't go with the notion that I will not do maths and I can crack CLAT without maths. So don't go with that notion. Just try to see the question and solve it. Like, because the maths will not come like above 10th level. Just try the basic topics, as Vian also said, percentages, profit and loss. You can do it in the next 5 days are more than sufficient to just practice the basic questions, and you can at least do like 7 to 10 questions are doable in DI.
Okay, okay. And my last question to all three of you is what are your final tips for the students appearing for CLAT? Say something they should do one day prior to the exam or the morning of the exam or during the exam or even after that for that matter. So if you could just give them some last minute tips and motivation to go away with. So Shravan, do you have anything here?
So I would say, like, just believe in your preparation. Like what you have done till now is like say yourself that that is sufficient. and everything you have done, like after the end of the day, it will be worth, like your hard work which you will put in next 5 days also. After seeing the results, it will be all worth it when you will see the result. And you will remember all the like hard work you have done. So try to put in like 100% efforts in the 5 days. 5 days you have to like uh, try to revise everything. It will be worth it.
Okay, great. Vihan, what do you have to add?
I would have a little different opinion than what Shravan said on this question. Of course, you need to study in the next 5 days, otherwise you lose the habit. But what I would say is next pass then thoda chill kar lo, because if you tire yourself out in the next 5 days, you won't be able to be at your best on the CLAT day. Of course, study, of course, give a mock a day in these last 5 days, but don't tire yourself out so much that you can't perform on the actual day when it matters. That's what I would suggest.
Okay, and anything to keep in mind during or after the exam?
During the exam, all I would say is no matter how much you know, stress eats you out. And if you take too much stress during the exam, even if you're a student who's supposed to get 120, you'll end up getting 70 or 80. And I have actually seen that happen to people I know. So I would just suggest exam ke time, don't take too much stress. And I know it's easier said than done, but that is something you need to do.
Okay, all right. Ira?
Yeah, I think pretty much similar. Don't stress yourself out too much. Don't drain yourself out during these last days. Get a lot of sleep. Very important. People think, oh, we'll pull all-nighters and do everything. Not the way to go. And yeah, even if you think you're scoring a lot in mocks, it's at the end of the day, this one day, which is going to matter. It's don't make it too dramatic. Don't make your whole life depending on it. Just go into the paper as if it's like one paper, one day, it's fine. But also keep in mind, it's just that one day where your performance is truly going to matter, not your mocks, not your preparation. No matter how more or little you've done, is that one day that matters.
Right. So I think we would answered a lot of questions that were there in the question answer section. But I think there's one question which I think we can take up, which is there any way to increase the score or accuracy in the last 5 days? Which I think we have covered in one or the other way. But if any one of you wants to add anything to this suggestion, or anyone.
I want to add one point. My mock scores till the very end were never consistent. Like I remember 1 or 2 weeks before the actual CLAT, also few of my mock scores were like as bad as 50s and 60s, and then one day it'll go to hundreds, 110s. So consistency, I think, came to me like at the very end. But before that, it's really subjective. And you can't just be like, oh, one bad mock, that's it, I'm not going to get it. Like, just don't stop at that. Like, if you're giving that much, put a little more, do one more mock or do a little more revision. Just don't give up till the very end.
Shravan, do you have to add anything here?
No.
Behind?
Just like don't let your mock scores affect your like tempo. Like don't let mock scores affect you. It is just a mock. At the end, the D-Day will decide what will be your score.
Right. Behind, do you want to add anything?
I'd like to agree with both of them. One day before CLAT, that is 18th to 17th June, I think, my mock score was 68 and a half. So, yeah, I agree that mock scores fluctuate a lot, but what matters is how you perform on the day of CLAT, and just don't let your mock score stress you out, because if you've prepared well, you'll do well.
Also,
Alright.
one more
Yeah,
mistake is talking to a lot of people who are going to be like, oh, I got this much, I got that much. Like, no, please don't
yeah,
do
yeah.
Yeah, there was a group where people used to be all like, I got 135, I got 138, and after
Yeah.
CLAT, they all just disappeared. Okay, I don't see them in any list anywhere. So don't talk too
Yeah,
much to people, I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
don't compare yourself with others at
Yeah.
this stage.
Yeah, yeah. I think so too. I completely agree with this. All right. So I think just to add to everything everything that has been said in terms of the nervousness of preparation. Maybe I'm going to say a very mummy kind of a thing, but also please hydrate and eat. Like I know a lot of people tend to not eat or tend to forget, tend not to drink water and all of that. Maybe not during the exam because then you have to pee and all of that. But just like before the exam, after the exam, whatever happens, like don't like all three of them also suggested that this is just an exam. Your life depends on it. Yes, you have to give your more than 100% without a doubt. But if it doesn't happen, doesn't mean that your life is ruined or it's just like stopped and you have no headway. I'm sure a lot of the students who were, like they said, scoring really well have probably not succeeded the way they thought they would, or vice versa has happened. So there's a lot of luck factor also that does come up during the exam. So it's okay to let it be, and once your exam is over, just like let go and enjoy yourself. Because I think all of you have really slogged a lot during these months. So just keep that in mind after the exam and even before the exam. Like I said, just focus on your health. I think that is always going to be a priority, both physical and mental. I think that is what I would like to leave at this. Thank you so much, Shravan, Meera, and Vihan. I think this was really interesting and really important for the students, and I hope that they've taken a lot of insights about what is to be done directly from our CLAT toppers. So, thank you so much for making out time. I know you have your college semester internships and all of exams, maybe, but you still did that. So, I'm really, really thankful, and I hope that you have a very successful law career. And IMS is always with you for anything that you need. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
All right. For everyone else, just to add that other than all of this, we will have more mentoring sessions and more sessions to motivate you in the coming few days. And also on the CLAT day, we do have a CLAT analysis planned on our YouTube, live analysis on our YouTube channel, IMS GSL at 6 p.m. So everybody, please do join and see what and how you have performed and probably get some answers as to what is going to be the future. So I will see you everyone, and thank you so much once again, Shravan, Ira, and Vihan. It was
Thank
such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
All the
you.
best to the takers.
All the best,
And
everyone.